Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast, where we are here to pay the bills. Brought to you by Picasso's Pizza. Get your Picasso's Pizza in Western New York and anywhere nationwide at picassospizza.net. We got a full squad here tonight. Mike Bundt, Mike Partham, Ajay Zabolski, Carson and Jake. I can only click these things so fast, not as fast as I can talk. But we're here. We're all excited. It was a different feeling Bills win on Sunday afternoon as the Bills beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a shootout, 44-32, in a game that we all have and Bills fans collectively have been asking for all year long. We finally got to it here. We're going to get into everything about it. Carson, I'm going to start with you, and let's go around the table as we always start off on these Tuesday night shows. Your reactions now, 48 hours later, and immediately following the game of the Bills' big win over Tampa Bay. Statement win, some would say.
Huge game for both teams. I don't think that could have been understated. For Tampa, they're still battling. Both squads really battling for their division, right? Tampa comes in off a loss against New England. The Bills coming off a loss against an inferior Miami team. This game had a lot at stake for both squads. Bills lose, they fall to 6-4. Tampa loses, they fall to 6-4, which they are right now. So there was a lot at stake entering the game. I think a lot of people knew that, and it set up for a big game at hand. And the Bills, if you're a mentally weak team, I think this is a game that they certainly lose. 9 lead changes, just 2 absolute heavyweight offenses, throwing back and forth heavy blows during the game. Sean Tucker running the rock. Rachaad White had a day. The Bucs put up over 200 yards of rushing. But the Bills' passing offense, man, it was good to see. For the first time since really that fourth quarter against Baltimore, they were able to consistently make some plays down the field when it came to some of their depth guys stepping up. Shavers has 4 catches, 90 yards, a touchdown. Curtis Samuel makes a catch that should have been routine, look a little harder, but regardless, picks up a big-time first down in that fourth quarter on, I think it was like 3rd and 15. And then Dawson Knox made a play or two. And then how about Gabe Davis? Welcome back, big fella. That's a nice complimentary role that he had. And you could see Mecole Hardman try to stretch the field a little bit as well in that game, which although, he didn't show up on the box score, right, you could still see there's a few plays where he freed a guy up in the passing game that he was out there, specifically one to Khalil Shakir that Josh just didn't throw to. But after that first quarter, we were a little nervous. But that first interception, probably one of Josh's worst interceptions I think I've ever seen in my life. But regardless, David Edwards, was a breakdown in the pass protection. You can't really have those done by your own goal line. Two-handed basketball pass right to the other team. And then on 4th down, throws a few drives later, throws a late pass over the middle of the Knox, goes off, shoulder pads up in the air and picked, right? But after that, the offense was clicking left and right. And not only did they click, but they clicked at big times too. Secondary guys stepped up. It was great to see. Josh was protected. They got Josh in the run game a little bit more. 6 tutty performance from him. What else more can you ask? And then defense wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, I thought they made stops when needed. If Mecole Hardman doesn't fumble the football on a punt return, that's a big-time stop that they forced down deep in their own territory. Who knows how the game happens after that. The Bills were set up in a position there to really start to take a bigger lead after that. So I thought the defense, there's still some worries, but at the end of the day, I thought they did enough against a high-powered team like Tampa, who I know is shorthanded at this point in time, but thought they did enough. And how about the special teams game? It's going to be my last point, but Ray Davis, Mecole Hardman, those guys back deep made some big plays. They set the Bills up, passed around 44 times, including a few times in Tampa Bay territory. That makes your job as an offense so much easier when you have a short field. You're basically handed 3 points as it is. When you start with that field position, Bills took advantage of that, and I think that is a crucial reason and why the Bills came away with a victory, and that's a pretty big one at that. But regardless, can't ride the roller coaster. It's a big win and a big game coming up here Thursday.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Carson in terms of I think this is the first time all year that the Bills consistently were able to throw the ball for all 4 quarters. We mentioned the Baltimore game. but that was really 1/4 of 15-minute sample size. So that really excited me to see Joshua Palmer come back and to see Gabe Davis come back. And I think they helped, but also just their execution. Ty Johnson takes a screen pass and gets some yards after the catch and takes that to the house trail. Shaver's down there blocking to really seal that big play from Ty Johnson. I really liked what I saw from the Bills. I thought their offensive line, the interception to Shakir, Allen said he slid the protection wrong. And that's why that kind of free rusher came in. Greg Evans let the Tampa Bay linebacker kind of rush it. He wasn't touched, and then Allen kind of trespassed it. And it was obviously a really bad decision. So they didn't start well. But that really, besides that, I know you had that 4th down to Knox where the ball got tipped in the air, and he probably could have checked the ball down. Josh Allen could have checked the ball down to Ty Johnson in the flat. But all in all, I mean, it was the typical high variance Josh Allen experience that I think the Bills have missed. There were some plays that I think Josh wants back, but when you score 44 points, 6 touchdowns, over 350 yards or close to it total from Allen, that was a game I think he needed. You saw when they went up 43-32 and made that extra point late, the emotion come from him. And my mom could vouch for me that when he did that, I think that was the first time all year where I really I really got into it. I did what he did. I kind of mimicked Josh and flexed at my TV and got really excited because I could feel that he needed that moment. So that was really awesome. I think for him, they really used his legs in the red zone, specifically the red zone. I want to reiterate that because I think that's something they've missed. It's something they need to lean on more. They use James Cook in the passing game. So all in all, I think it's what we've all talked about with the offense and something I didn't know if they could do it because I haven't seen it, and that's kind of how I'm wired. But now that I've seen it, it's about being able to do it again. So we'll have to see if they can consistently not maybe produce at that level, but do it when James Cook's held to 16 carries for 48 yards and 3 yards a carry, and the run game's really not doing anything. So that's my spiel on the offensive side of the ball. And also McCole Hardman, I don't want to see him returning punts ever again. He was a problem in Kansas City. Chiefs fans were in my comments that every time he touched the ball on a punt, they were hoping and praying that there wasn't a turnover because it was a frequent thing with him and they did not like him in that role. So maybe as a receiver to stretch the field, but I really don't want to see – I'd rather see the sure-handed guy like a Shakir, especially if the Bills are going to play this high-variance kind of football and Josh Allen's prone to turn the ball over more. They don't need more special teams turnovers, and McCole Hardman, I think, is a liability there. Defensively, I think it's still a major concern with the run defense. Sean Tucker, 3 total touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, for over 150 total yards. I mean, this is a guy that really hasn't produced at the NFL level. He was a good, player at Syracuse, but in terms of his NFL production, wasn't that great. And they made him look really good, whether it was in the pass or run game. I am still worried about that. The defensive line, with the loss of Hoyt and Oliver, have lost a step in terms of pressure. Baker was able to utilize his legs. They were having trouble with the read option. Joey Bosa still looks utterly confused at times on whether to contain or, take the running back or take the quarterback. He doesn't really know. He also got faked out badly on a Baker pump fake. That was pretty embarrassing. But I think they do have a lot of major questions on that side of the ball, and they lack that blue chip talent. And I think that's going to probably, if they do fall short, I think that is going to be why. Because they can't stop the run. I think the Patriots are running the ball better with Trevion Henderson. And obviously, what the Colts have with Jonathan Taylor. So, and then what the Ravens have if they get in. And I think that's their liability. That's how teams are going to attack them. And I just don't know if they have the horses on that defensive side of the ball to get it done. But all in all, like Carson said, they did do enough in this game. They had a timely turnover. They made some big plays. They got some stops and did enough for the Bills offense who, they weren't getting stopped besides shooting themselves in the foot in that game. They did enough to get the job done. But I still think there is major, major concerns with the injuries on the D-line and with the question marks against the run and the linebackers and what they're bringing to if they can actually ever figure that out when it matters most.
Well, week to week, guys, I don't know about you, but this team is more bipolar than Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Because one week they look like world beaters that are on their way to the Super Bowl, and then the next week it looks like they couldn't even beat the Miami Dolphins, which, oh, by the way, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Offensively, yeah, it looked like they loosened up. They finally got it. Someone gave them the memo that they were running a bit too much on first down, and in recent weeks it looks like opposing defenses have been keyed on that. So early on, when the run wasn't as effective, and keep in mind, of course, they were also getting blitzed by Todd Bowles, as we all expected, and that resulted in a couple of mistakes early on. And in the first half, even though they scored 21 points, it could have been more because there were at least 2 or 3 instances where Allen looked like he had someone deep, whether it was Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Mecole Hardman on one occasion, and just overthrew them by maybe a couple of feet, maybe a couple of steps. But even so, they still got some big plays on offense, especially in the passing game. And all this what seems to be predicated on the addition by subtraction of Keon Coleman seemingly getting himself out of the lineup indirectly. And when we first heard Cover One breaking that story about Keon Coleman's not going to be in the lineup, we got into our heads that, maybe this offensive coordinator, this head coach, finally woke up and said, hey, maybe we can see how this offense does without him in the lineup. Now, it's more of a disciplinary issue, an ongoing one as of the last couple of years in 3 instances, I think, by this point. But they got somewhat of an answer on that. And I don't know how the all 22 and all the schemes and the routes work out. Maybe Joe Brady got a little scared straight when he saw that a certain former offensive coordinator was now on the market, and possibly there was obviously the coach said there was nothing to the idea of bringing him in, Daboll that is, but maybe Joe Brady said, you know what, it's time to open it up a little bit, and it certainly worked. Because even though they had 3 turnovers, and of course one of them was on special teams, a couple of the others were by Josh Allen himself, still scoring 44 points. I mean, we talk about, well, they score 30 points a game, they must be a good offense. How about scoring 44 off of 3 turnovers, giving up 3 turnovers? So I'd say that opening up the offense and having receivers that can actually run routes and get a little bit of separation, even if Allen misfires on a couple of occasions, seems to work out pretty well. Defensively, as Ajay said, Bosa looks like he's getting caught completely flat-footed on more than one occasion. As much as he may make a play here or there, I'm more positively positive about Terrell Bernard, who may be operating on a bad wheel, so to speak. But it looks like he's making plays, a couple of tackles for losses, a couple other plays here and there. And it looks like he's rounding into form into the defensive captain that we all hope he is. Matt Malone, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be catching up quite as much. I would like to see Shaq Thompson get healthy back again on the field. Hairston's looking good. And, of course, Cole Bishop comes down with yet another interception. So as much as the run defense is getting gashed, and we can probably dissect the reasons for that other than Ed Oliver and Michael Hoyt being out for the long term, I would say this is overall a positive game for the Bills. And I'm not sure how it affects their offensive strategy going forward. Are they going to try to go back to establishing the run with James Cook on first down? I would like to think that their neutral pass rate gets a little bit better, because that was one of their weaknesses in recent games. But maybe this awakens them to a different offensive strategy to come going forward. Bundt, what are your thoughts?
You guys pretty much just nailed everything. 15 minutes of the show. This is going to be the least I ever talk in an episode, but I'm cool with it. I don't know. It's one game. You don't want to overreact to everything, but all season long, I think Carson, Jake, and myself have been pretty adamant that if they had their full healthy roster receivers and they wanted to open things up, I think the 3 of us kind of have been in agreement that they could open it up. They just haven't chosen to do so. And they played a team in Tampa that has a decent defense, nothing special, but decent. It was a very windy day in the stadium, and the Bills threw it like they were 3 years ago. And I think that's always been my thought process. It's not that they couldn't do it. It's that they didn't want to do it. And the reason they didn't want to do it was because they wanted to protect the ball, and they were winning games, running the ball really effectively. And they were stubborn, and they were sticking with what was working with them until it no longer was working for them. And once they started seeing teams like Miami shutting them down and losing games that they should never lose, and they see all the base defense on first down, I think it was a really big wake-up call that we need to shift our tendencies. And I think it makes sense that you do what you do against Tampa, where you throw all out, because now what are you putting on film? We can do this too. So now some people are going to say, well, this is going to be how the Bills attack every week. I don't know if that's going to be the way the Bills attack every week, but say there's a game where a team is going to go all out to stop the run. You now have confidence that you can open things up, spread teams apart, and go back to what you were doing 2, 3, 4 years ago. If teams want to stop the pass, maybe this opens up the run game more. It's not that the Bills need to be one or the other. What they need to do is find their balance. And their balance doesn't mean 50-50. Maybe it's pass it 55, run it 45. Maybe it's like 52-48. Like, they need to figure out what their acceptable ratio is. But I've been saying for a few weeks now, the Bills have more of a Keon problem than they have a wide receiver problem. Khalil Shakir is a good slot receiver. Kincaid is a very good pass-catching tight end, who obviously wasn't in this game either. I've always thought that Palmer played a bigger role in this offense than what his individual stats would show. And what did the Bills do right away in this game? They threw downfield to Mecole Hardman. Yes, it was incompletion, but what was shown on that play? Khalil Shakir was wide open across the middle of the field. There was other plays later in the game where Curtis Samuel gets a step, where then Tyrell Shavers gets a step in the scramble drill. James Cook gets schemed on something wide open. I think a lot of times the Bills were – it's a mentality. When you're practicing all week and you're like, we're going to beat teams with the ground. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run through you. We're going to have James Cook be explosive. And you're not really prioritizing the passing game as much. And I think it's obvious this past week, the Bills prioritized the passing game and the results changed. And I always thought it was kind of silly that the belief that Brady couldn't figure it out in some areas with the passing attack. Like, yes, I agree with everybody that he hasn't done a good enough job for 90% of the season scheming passing routes and stuff like that. But, like, at the same time, this guy was the passing game coordinator of the greatest college offense of all time. And he was someone that has had success at every single level. And we're talking about a guy in his mid-30s. Like, he's been considered, before he even entered the NFL, he was considered a coaching prodigy in his late 20s. So this is a guy that was a coaching mastermind around the same time a lot of these other young coaches were coaching masterminds. So what I would say is the offense is averaging 29.2 points a game. They're still elite as they've ever been. They just have to figure out the right ratio and the amount of turnovers they're okay with. If they're okay with turning it over every once in a while, if it means that they're more explosive and that they can generate a better vertical passing game, so be it. And then my only real main concern is the run defense. The run defense is horrible. Like, they have no answers for anything. And Bosa had some poor moments. The interior defensive line had some poor moments. I think the linebackers on this team are awful, like god awful. And I understand that Bernard is dealing with stuff and that he's not fully healthy. But maybe that means that Shaq Thompson plays for Bernard this week, or Milano, one of them, because we can all talk about PFF grades and how take them with a grain of salt. Milano's rated 81 out of 83 linebackers at his spot, and Bernard is ranked 72 out of 81. They're not cutting it. Like, you see it every time a run gets to them. They have no speed. They have no ability to move laterally. Like, they stink right now. They are horrible. And yes, Bernard might make the splash play every once in a while. He stinks right now. Like, they both stink. And when Jordan Poyer is getting 15 tackles, it's because guys are getting past the linebackers routinely. So they're not shredding blocks. They're not making enough explosive plays. The whole point of Bernard and Milano is they got to make plays in the backfield. If they don't make plays in the backfield, they're not doing anything for you. Because literally, that was the whole point of them, is that they're going to struggle at times stopping the run, but if they make the splash plays, at least a havoc play makes an impact on the game. If you're not making the havoc plays, they're just subpar linebackers. So hopefully Shaq Thompson returns for this Houston game. And then I do have to say, like, an area of positivity, the secondary. Igbuka was covered by Benford, and he did nothing. He did nothing in this game. Cole Bishop is quickly turning into a top level safety in the NFL. What an ascension.
Yep.
Going from thinking the guy doesn't even deserve to see the field early in the season to now, like, there's people saying this guy's a top 15 safety in the NFL. And Harrison has gotten the job done. And you look at the secondary is actually okay. Now, you need a more consistent pass rush. You need to be better on run defense. And you need to stop allowing some of these third and longs. But overall, I see a team that has ups and downs. They're battling through certain things. And you don't know what you're going to get week to week from them. And hopefully, in the next month and a half before the playoffs start, they figure out a little bit more what they need to do and get on the right page. But even with all these struggles, they're 7-3. Like, we got to remember that Bills fans have been so critical of this team, and yet they're 7-3. That's the same record they were in 2020 when it felt like it was magic going on. 7-3 is better than what the record was 2 years ago. It was better than what the record was 4 years ago. So, like, I understand all the constant negativity, but the Bills are actually winning, like, at a decent rate compared to even the past Bills teams that we seem to always think never had any issues in the regular season.
Yeah, man, it was a welcome sight. That you guys made a lot of great points there. It was a welcome sight offensively to see the tendency just flip over. And I don't know, someone said it in here, like, I don't know if this is they were mixing it up or if this is what they're going to be going forward. I think it's more of, hey, we have this in our arsenal. Like, we're willing to use this now and attacking teams however you need to attack them going forward. And this was a game where, and then the looks that they've seen, and credit to Tampa too as part of their game plan, Tampa was not going to let James Cook beat them in this game too. So it played into Buffalo wanting to pass the ball a little bit more, but Tampa was also playing heavier and trying to stop the run and stop those early down runs specifically. They didn't let Cook get going at all. And you're willing to take that, and we're willing to take the chance of Allen and these receivers beating them. And it worked out for the Bills, and getting Allen involved in the run game added a whole different element for the Bills in this one too. I don't know if this is going to be what they do every week going forward, but I think it's a welcome sight to see the willingness to do so as much as anything else. And forget about talking about the personnel, forget about talking about, receiver needing a number one dominant wide receiver and anything else. Like, Josh Allen can make these plays happen when he has just the right kind of guys out there. And I know everybody hates, I don't know if everybody hates it. Maybe we all hate it. Maybe we're a little tired of hearing it with everybody eats at this point. But it was this is exactly what you hope for when you talk about that in this game. They had 9 different receivers with receptions. Now, Shakir's one reception was a loss, so I don't know. Like, yes, he got the catch, but like it didn't really work out. But still, 8 guys, no one with more than 5 catches. Like, it speaks to the fact that they were able to. And that's a great point there too. Is where if this wasn't the Patriots, if the Patriots aren't involved here and the Bills are 7-3 and in first place, even if they win, we were talking about it in the group chat yesterday. Like, even if they had just won the Patriots game and it's 8-3 and 8-2 at this point, like, fans are feeling like the Super Bowl is within reach, and the market still believes so. There's power rankings still believe so with this Bills team. So offensively, a lot of it is, I don't think this is going to be their identity going forward. I do think there is something to, I got to find the comment back in here. From No Bones about McDermott maybe holding back Brady a little bit and holding back on the aggressiveness and what they want to do, because McDermott's always wanted a dominant run game. He said so himself for the past years. And so establishing that a dominant run game, even if it was a detriment to your passing game for this long. And AJ, I know AJ said it jokingly the other day that they were saving it and holding it back, but there has to be something to the fact that they were holding some of this stuff back, whether it be Allen running, whether it be getting Cook more involved in the pass. I think those two things specifically, Allen running and Cook being involved in the passing game, I could see them be holding it back a little bit more, if anything, just because you want to save the miles on those guys and save the hits on those guys. So if it means 5 less touches for Allen and 5 less hits every game for the first half of the season, and same thing for Cook, that it makes sense. But you see what happens when they open up the full arsenal. It's just dynamic. And the defense, I'm in agreement with a lot of what you guys said, especially about the run defense, especially about Cole Bishop. And Cole Bishop's been the best player on this defense, but the run defense has been an issue. And it's been an issue for this entire tenure of Sean McDermott, really. It's kind of just it's the way that they play, and they don't really have a lot of options. Someone brought it up in here too, though, in our comments about Taron Johnson. I think that has hurt along with the linebackers as well. Like Milano and Bernard aren't playing great, but the Taron Johnson has definitely slipped a little bit this year, and he was basically in that nickel formation, able to kind of play a third linebacker in some scenarios. So I think that's hurt them a lot. I don't know if they have a fix for that. Maybe it is going heavier. Maybe it is just Shaq Thompson coming back. Who knows? But Carson, what do you think here? Let's go back to offensively specifically. Do you think that this is something that do you think that this is going to be the identity going forward? Like Joe Brady and Josh Allen are now just unleashing the passing game, and that's what they're going to do? Or do you see this more as, hey, we're adding this to our arsenal, and like Bundt said, like this is going to be on tape now for the rest of the year, and you got to prepare for it. But now it just shows how multiple the Bills are, and have different ways to attack team. Like what do you anticipate the identity of this offense is for the rest of November and December heading into the playoffs?
You guys touched on the tendency of them running the football on first down at like the second most rate. Is how I should phrase that. And the classic term of that, and the literal term, is it's a tendency breaker. What we saw against Tampa Bay, with them throwing the football more on first down. That's typically, I think it could be something with the opponent as well with Tampa Bay that maybe they saw. I know when Vita Vea was in the game, that's one of the best guys, and you're not going to move him. He's kind of a brick wall up in front and makes your run game. And if you try to pull some of your guards, he makes that extremely, extremely difficult. So I think that could have played something to do with how we decided to throw the football a little bit more on the early downs. But I also think internally that's something that they decided on too. I think they realized you don't always – it's not all the time that you scout the opponent. You also scout yourself too. You have people that are employed in your organization that scout your own team, right? So on top of that, so I think they realized, I also think they've had success with running the football on early downs. This is a team that when they are behind the sticks, specifically if it's a 5-yard loss or something like that, let's say on first down, maybe it's a sack or second down and long or something like that. They've had a hard time this year trying to make up for that and correct that. I know third down and long, they're a pretty decent team, but when you have an elite quarterback that's elusive, that's like Allen or Mahomes, you look at those guys are going to, every time third down defense is out there on a third and long against an elite quarterback, I worry. I feel, they arguably have a better chance to pick this up than a third down and 4. I don't know if the stats would say that, but it's kind of just a gut feeling. But I think going forward for this team, I think a lot of it's going to depend on who they use and when they use them. You look at a guy like Curtis Samuel, I know he gets a lot of hate from the fan base. And to be honest with you, not all of it's incorrect either. The guy has a really hard time staying healthy. But when he stays healthy, he's a great guy that they love to use in motion. Somebody mentioned it earlier. He clears out like nobody else. You saw him on the Ty Johnson touchdown. He was out there blocking his ass off, has a heck of a block, springs Ty loose, and ultimately that leads to a possible game-changing touchdown too. So he's a guy that I'd like to see get utilized a little bit more in this offense. I know they have a kind of redundant role between him and Elijah Moore and how they use some guys. I guess Shakir even kind of fits that mold a little bit too. But I feel how they use some of these guys going forward is going to be a big tell. If Meekel's healthy, which we'll see, he's a guy that does have some use when it comes to offense. I know, Ajay, we do agree that he's a little bit of a liability when it comes to ball security and punt returns. But I think he is probably one of their better returners when he does catch the football. But it's a risk-reward balance there, which it shouldn't be, but it is. And then you look at a guy like Keon. What are the Bills going to do with Keon? Is he going to get back in the lineup this week? I don't know. It depends if some guys are banged up. I think maybe Curtis was dealing something with on the injury report, and I know Meekle is too with the calf. But if those guys can't go, I think Keon gets back in the lineup. But if he doesn't, after the passing performance you see on Sunday, I don't know how you throw him back out there. He's the guy that had the most snaps of all these wide receivers, second on the team in targets, and the passing offense seemed to stall a little bit. People say he's a boat anchor. I don't necessarily buy all of that. I don't think it's to that extreme. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to make a decision here on what they're going to do with their 33rd overall pick a year and a half ago, because clearly it hasn't worked out. The guy has struggled with off-the-field things. You pair that with poor play, and relative to expectation, and they have a difficult decision to make there. I think right now, if they're going to come out and throw the ball on early downs, it's probably without Keon on the football field. I think Keon's going to be more used in a little bit of a role type of player at this point in time, especially with Davis coming back. I like what they did with him. But early on, I expect them to throw the football a little bit more on first and second down. But I don't expect it to be – they're not going to change their scheme and their mentality based off of one self-reflection or one game where they had success. This team has been as effective as hell as running the football. They're not going to change that just because the last 2 weeks they haven't been able to run the ball that well. I think this is a week against Houston. The run defense for Houston, they're third ranked in the league. I think this is a week where the Bills are going to try to establish the run game. The top-ranked defense when it comes to yards per game in Houston. They're going to have to establish the line of scrimmage, and I think right now I have no problem with them running the ball on first and second down. I get everybody wants to take the shot and throw the football on first down a little bit more. I agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, if it's working, you're picking up 4 yards a carry and you have your top 3 ranked rushing attack in the NFL, why not stick with what your identity is and what works best?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit here to Carson's points. I think I underestimated what, and again, it's one game, so I do want to say that because I think there is a lot that I still think
That's
needs
fair.
answers. I don't want a game just against Tampa Bay, where they're decent defensively, but they've been in a little rut themselves. They've really struggled the last few weeks, and they've really not looked too good. They're in a little bit of their own way, and they're struggling. So I do want to paraphrase with that, but I think Gabe Davis, and Mike was right about this, Gabe Davis and Joshua Palmer, I think they need those guys because not that Keon Coleman, like I don't think I want to see Keon Coleman not in the offense, like not in the lineup. I don't think that I just want him inactive all the rest of the year because I think he can do things, especially in the red zone, that can offer them a little bit more versatility than they even would have with just Gabe Davis and Palmer in the lineup. So if you can get Keon Coleman's snap count down to 30%, give him 15, 20 snaps, increase Josh Palmer, Gabe Davis, figure out what you want to do with more Samuel and Hardman, however that kind of lines up. And then you have a Terrell Shavers too, who I thought showed his ability as a run blocker and pass catcher. And I think he was really good on the scramble drill. I think that is going to be important to, if the Bills want to not continue that identity, but kind of be a more balanced and nuanced attack instead of just kind of committing to that run and kind of changing that philosophy a little bit. I do think that Sean McDermott, and again, this is my assumption, but I do think Sean McDermott wanted the Bills to commit to the run. And I think that hurt them in the long run. Like, I think it worked and I think it's smart, but I think that they're like we talked about it. Jake, we always said it, like we feel like they went too far the other way, and that's why we feel like this tendency breaker needed to happen. I think that was not just Joe Brady. I think that was also a Sean McDermott kind of, we need to take care of the football because it's not happening. What's so funny?
Just Maniac calling out Carson in the comments here. I had to keep it up just long enough for Carson to see it.
I wasn't even.
That's all.
I was locked.
You were rolling. I'm sorry. Sorry to
That's
distract
okay.
you.
And then another thing I just want to bring up real quick. The Bills against the Tampa Bay Bucs, they really used play action well. They did 46% play action in the second half, which was first highest percentage this year. And when they used play action, they had a plus 0.83 EPA per attempt, a 75% success rate, 16.1 yards per attempt and a touchdown. And this is in the early downs. Without play action, a negative 0.51 EPA per attempt, a 31% success rate, 4.2 yards per attempt, and one interception, 0 touchdowns. So I think the use of play action too, not only were they passing the ball more in early downs, but they were also using play action. And I think Josh Allen, I don't know, Carson probably knows more about this than me from the quarterback position, but I think the scramble drill was working more because the linebackers had to commit to that play action, which allowed the receivers maybe to have a little bit more space. I don't know if that's like just a correlation or my assumption, but I think play action really helped this team in this game. And they're the most efficient team this year when they use play action on early downs. They're number one in success rate, and they're number one in EPA attempt. without play action on early downs, they're 20th in success rate and 12th in EPA. But they only use play action at the number 22 rate on early downs. So
tendency breaker.
So I want to see that continue. Like they need to be more versatile. I think with the added players in the room, it'll help. I think the running back usage was great. The orbit motion with Shakir, get him out in the flat, fake that. James Cook, get a matchup that you like, use a wheel route. Like they combined for over 120 yards with the running back production in the air. Like that is something that I've been talking about for months, that I think Ty Johnson and James Cook need to be utilized more, and that's what they did. So all in all, it did a lot of things different. And I'm not saying they need to switch that, but I think they need to continue to build on that and show that they can do it more than just one game. They put it on film once. You need to put it on film a few more times down the stretch before teams really start believing you can do it.
You mentioned play action. Josh Allen specifically was 6 of 9 for 129 with that touchdown on play action passing. I think it's a bit of a myth that you need to establish the run in order to have an effective play action passing game, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have one of the best running attacks with James Cook on the ground if you can get him established early in the game as it is. But yeah, for teams committing to stopping James Cook in the run and selling out to do that, and basically what a insane concept, daring Josh Allen to pass, and here's the end result of that. You've got to break your tendencies, especially on first downs, especially when you get to be so predictable. I think you could still have an effective run game, just not on first down all the time. As far as Coleman goes, I did propose, I think a few weeks earlier, that he would probably be a little more effective in the red zone area for jump balls, especially when traffic gets tight with that shorter field. But honestly, if all the receivers are healthy, I wouldn't even dress Coleman at this point. I know the ego of maybe Brandon Beane or Sean McDermott, because he's one of their early round draft picks and he's only in his second year, would say they want to try to develop him, make use of him somehow. But at this point, if this is how and of course it's one data point, of course, and they didn't even have Dalton Kincaid in the lineup, so they didn't have all their full effective weapons. But if this is how the offense looks without Keon Coleman in the lineup, as far as the passing offense goes, sign me up for that. And I think one of the Bucs media guys was just offhand saying, if this is how their offense looks, then they don't even have that great of a wide receiver. Imagine if they did have a guy like that. Obviously, the only way I would put Keon Coleman in the lineup at this point is if one or two guys are hurt. It looks like Samuel and Mecole Hardman are not going to be available on the short week. They haven't practiced yet in the last couple of days. So I'm confident that they can pass the ball with a healthy receiver core going forward. But I just hope they know enough to not just force the ball to Keon Coleman, which is kind of ironic because they got rid of Stephon Diggs in part because of their want to force the ball to him for all those years. I don't have too much more to say on the offense. Bundt, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't think they're going to be worried about forcing the ball to Coleman because they weren't even forcing the ball to Coleman when he was their only receiver on the field. So I just don't.
There were 2 or 3 times with Josh would throw it up and it was pretty well covered, and it was like go and get the ball. Like everybody was thinking Coleman would be that kind of guy to do it, and it would just maybe Josh Allen's just not putting the ball in the right place for Keon, and maybe it's a communication thing. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, to add on to that, even some misses of just like a ball landing in the middle of 2 receivers that looked like it could have been intended for Keon, and they were just off. Like just some, like you said, miscommunications, wrong routes, whatever it is, on top of missing opportunities with the ball thrown to him.
His body language sucks. Like his body language sucks. But Matt,
Keon, like when something goes wrong,
just in general, man, it sucks.
I'm gonna preface everything I say with Keon by saying, like, I don't think it's guaranteed he's going to be a horrible NFL receiver. I don't think he sucks. I don't think he's bad. I think he was put in a situation that was unfair to him and was stupid by the Bills organization. And he responded with the lack of maturity, development, and growth that we were all hoping, expecting out of a professional. So, like, Keon shouldn't have been entering his second year in the NFL, coming off like a 29 catch season as the number one boundary receiver. Like a guy that has never separated at any level. And the Bills went all in on Keon being their number one boundary receiver to start the year. Like that made no sense. That's the thing that always bothered me about it was that I like Josh Palmer. I like Khalil Shakir. And the receiver room actually has some okay guys, but Keon made sense as like the number 3 or the number 4, not the number like 1 or number 2. And then, so you have Keon playing in a role he shouldn't be in, and then your other boundary receiver goes down to injury, and you have literally nobody on the outside that can separate. And now we're seeing like Tyrell Shavers, I guess, can when they put him in the game and they actively try to throw the ball. But
which, oh, by the way, he looks a lot better than Keon Coleman, doesn't he, Bundt?
I mean, he did. I mean, this is the first time we've really gotten the chance to see it. But the issue is like Keon is a number 3 or a number 4 at this point of his career. And if he's playing number 3 or number 4 role with Buffalo, he might be open every once in a while. He might be going up against number 3 corners. He might be going up against lesser players, and he might have an opportunity to make some nice plays.
Did we see him going up against like 3rd or 4th depth corners in Miami?
Yeah, and that was when he got his like 40-yard touchdown.
And that corner was benched. That was the most like slow-mo.
But
that corner was
check.
awesome. Yeah. But I agree, Mike, with your point. That's where I'm at. I want to see like 30%.
Like, that's what Keon always should have been. And that was my frustration with it is the Bills put him in a horrible spot. And then he's responded with such immaturity. Like 3 incidents in a year and a half as a pro. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, honestly, I'm at the point I don't even want Keon on this team. Like, get him the heck out of Buffalo. Like, no, but it's not for the reasons on the field. It's about the stuff off the field. Like, Keon is an athletic freak. Now, he's slow. That's his problem. He's slow. But if Keon was like out there
that is a problem.
If Keon was out there dedicating himself, trying to like basically like showing up on time for meetings, doing all the right stuff off the field, Keon would be fine out there. He doesn't do the shit off the field, so he's not going to do it on the field. And the Bills are counting on him to elevate his play, but Keon's not even showing up to meetings on time. And then we're like, well, why does it look bad on the field? Well, the dude doesn't even do anything right. And he shows no dedication.
But how many times in this league have we seen receivers, especially in that position, maybe not lackadaisical as in not showing up to meetings, but maybe not the most diligent during practice, and then they go out there with some natural talent and they have like 10 catches, 100 yards, and they lead the league in receiving. The typical team receiver.
That's talking about like Terrell Owens and like a select.
I was going to say, it's the self-awareness that Keon has to have that he's not one of those guys that can
Keon is a raw prospect. And let's be real, this has been tweeted too. Like Josh Allen plays a role in Keon too. Because it's not just Keon. Josh throws one of the worst back shoulder like throws around. Like people have noted this. Like what you need to throw to Keon, Josh does not do at a good level. Like Josh,
even on that miss to Samuel that should have went to his back shoulder, he threw that on the inside, and Samuel's like, "Why are you putting this over here, man?"
Josh throwing to Keon is like makes some of the worst throws I've ever seen in my life. So like, yes, Keon is like awful and he gets no separation, but like there's an art to a contested catch. It's not just the receiver going up and like maneuvering their body and like coming down with it. Like you need to have the ball in an area where it actually is catchable. And I would argue that a lot of the throws to Keon are not in that situation. And like Russell Wilson, he was always really good on the deep ball. Why? Because he put a lot of air on it and he let guys get underneath it. There's an art to throwing to receivers when you're not talking about high separation situations. And for as great as Allen is, some of the things he struggled with in his career are throws to guys like that And then it's sometimes been some of the short, quick throws. And then sometimes it's been timing. Now, it's funny when I say stuff like this because most people are like, why are you attacking Josh Allen? He's so amazing. He is amazing. But even though he's amazing, he has a couple attributes that I'd rate a C+, or maybe a B-. And I'm done with Keon. I don't know how they salvage this because it's clear he has an issue accepting responsibility, accepting accountability, dedicating himself to his career that he's making millions of dollars on. He thinks he's this level when he's really this level. He's very raw. And what's going to happen when the Bills draft a receiver in the first round or they bring in another receiver and Keon's behind Palmer and Shakir next year and he's number 4? Is Keon going to be happy with that? Is he going to put up with that? It's going to get worse. He's going to skip more meetings. He's going to be more problems. Unless he's
going to be on this team next year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think Keon is playing his way out of Buffalo. And I would trade him for a 6th-round pick right now. Sunk cost. I don't even need it.
I keep thinking that we should have thrown him in the Waddle deal. Maybe that would have closed it. Maybe we wouldn't have to switch gears for a first-rounder.
Miami doesn't want Keon Coleman. Nobody wants Keon Coleman right now.
Well, it's like you give up a receiver, we'll give you a receiver. We'll throw him in to close the deal, whatever.
Here's what I think about
Coleman. Yeah, Coleman's not even bad. It's just it's just not going to work out in Buffalo. It's not going to work out.
Just be bad. He might be bad.
They tried to put a square peg in a round hole, and he doesn't have the mentality to develop himself into a round peg, essentially.
And Parthy, I wanted to jump on that too because Marino's legacy coming in here with why on earth did they draft Keon? Keon fits a lot of guys that they've drafted though, where it's the Kaiir Elam conundrum too. It's the same thing. It's the Landon Jackson conundrum right now, where they fall in love with a guy who's a physical freak. And this is where, when I brought up hubris a couple weeks ago, this is part of the hubris is thinking, oh, well, the rest of the league doesn't think that guy's going to be a top player, but he has all these traits. We can turn him into a top player because we're the Bills and we can develop these guys. And you can do that in some scenarios, like a Christian Benford who grades out as one of, his RAS score was like one of the best in that draft. And the way that it worked out, yes, you can do that with certain players, but certain players, it's going to look like a mess when you draft just toolsy guys who don't produce. What's up, Carson?
Jake, can I just add on to the, I want to be Keon's defense for a second.
Because, here we go.
First of all,
if this is Keon's lawyer, he's screwed.
No, I guess I'm the agent Paul for tonight. But regardless, this is more just to touch on the whole ball placement thing because I know the exact stuff you guys are talking about, and I think it's a little unfair to Keon because I think you know how I am. I support Joe Brady. I typically fall on his side a lot of the time. But I think we had this conversation a few weeks ago. When they throw Keon in the slot and he runs slot fades and they try to go back shoulder to Keon, those aren't really – the throws aren't always perfect from Josh. But that's not the type of route Keon's going to win on. If Keon's going to win on a 50-50 ball, it's going to be up in the air. It's not going to be back shoulder. That's just not putting your guy in a position to win favorably. First of all, Josh doesn't throw that ball typically well. When he does do it well, though, Keon's not the guy that's going to win that battle when it comes to back shoulder balls. You see when he goes up and he plays basketball, go meet the ball at the rim. We saw it against the Jets last year. That was the unofficial play that won Josh Allen the MVP. And then this year, he was, I think, like 3 or 4 yards out of balance against New England. But when he goes up and gets that thing in the back of the end zone, like that is how they have to use him. 50-50 ball on a milk check on Ethan Bonner against Miami on a back shoulder. That's one of those rare times it does pay off. That's one of the rare times it does work. But it's not a 50-50 ball when you're throwing back shoulders to Keon. It's a 20-80 ball. 20% of the time he's going to come up with it. 80% of the time it falls incomplete. And I think recently – we've seen the offense kind of stay away from those slot fades with him. And if they're going to take a shot with him, it's going to be on the outside trying to go down the field where he can go up instead of go back. So right there, I think that's a little bit of a fault. Again, I'm not in practice, so I don't see this every single day. For all I know, the Bills defense allows this every day on the back shoulder throws. But from what I'm seeing, I think that's a fault from a coaching perspective. Initially through the first few weeks that they tried to get him on back shoulders. Could it have worked in practice? Yes, but clearly when it mattered, it didn't work. And that one, if I'm missing meetings and showing up late, that's freaking terrible. That's got to change. But And everything else, he hasn't performed that well on either. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I don't think they've used him particularly in the right spots for him to succeed.
That's the thing, though. Like, that's what I was going at, Carson. And that's why I didn't say he completely sucks. It's the way they need to use him.
Partially.
No, like this is the tough part about a guy like Keon. He doesn't separate. And the Bills quarterback is a guy that needs separation.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league that like to throw tightly contested throws and then let their receivers make a play. Josh Allen is not one of those guys. And so you have a receiver that you drafted knowing he doesn't get open, that you have to throw it in to select areas for him to have a chance at making a play. But you have a quarterback that doesn't specialize in doing the back shoulder throws. And then simultaneously, the year you draft Keon, you're trying to not turn the ball over. So you're telling him to take less chances. So you draft Keon during a time you're saying take less chances, and the safe back shoulder where there's a low probability of a turnover is not one of your quarterback strengths, and it's not one of Keon's strengths. So literally, why did you draft the guy? Like, that is the problem. You drafted a guy because you wanted it. What it comes down to is the Bills wanted to get away from their high variance offense. They wanted to get to more of a running game, and they thought, well, if we get a big physical receiver, we can turn him into a possession guy, like Eric Moulds back in the day or somebody that's not going to be the fastest, but he can box guys out. He can make tough contested catches, and we can rely on that in the run game. The problem is Keon and Josh are horrible fits for each other, and the Bills don't use Keon in a way that lets Keon show the best version of himself, and you hit it nail in the coffin. If you're going to throw it to Keon contested balls, you have to throw it up. You got to throw it to where he can jump and he can use his length. When they're trying to do back shoulder throws, Keon doesn't even have a chance 90% of the time.
Yep.
And they're running 20 yards downfield, asking Keon to turn on the dot and then rotate his body to side. That's not Keon's athleticism. It's not side to side rotating, catching down. It's up. He's 6'3". He's taller than everybody he's getting defended by. And he can jump higher than everybody's defending. Just throw the goddamn ball up. And that's why Keon is probably like, dude, you guys don't even know what I'm capable of, because the Bills haven't given Keon opportunities to really do what he needs to do. But at the same time, I wouldn't be giving Keon any opportunities either, because he's been horrible. He's not showing up to practice, and he's a bum. So, like,
BUM, exclamation point, as Howard
Wow.
Sutherland said.
So, like, I see both sides of it. And what I'll say is this. The best case scenario for the Bills is that Keon comes back against the Steelers. He falls to wide receiver 3 role or wide receiver 4 role. I think Ajay said it, where he's playing 30 to 40% of the snaps. And because he has lesser guys or lesser focal point of the offense, he can make a few plays where he's overlooked. But I don't want Tyrell Shavers losing snaps to Keon. I want Tyrell Shavers out there. He showed in a game, not in a fourth quarter down 15. He showed in the normal game situation that he can make plays. And Josh Palmer, like, for as limited as his stats are, it's quite obvious things open up a little bit more when he's out there. And Palmer could have had a touchdown on the Cook play. It just so happened Cook was open sooner, and that was the go-to. But Palmer was wide open on that play. Palmer was wide open on another play. There was wide receivers wide open the entire Bucs game. Like,
I will say it was really funny when I posted about Josh Palmer. I posted the thing about Palmer and Gabe coming back, and people were like, yeah, Palmer's 2 for 17 is going to look sick, and he had 2 for 19. The people were on it. I have to give it. He helped.
Yeah,
he did help.
Right.
I'm not saying he didn't help. But
Wait, Palmer? Palmer?
Yeah.
He was exactly 2 for 17.
Oh, it was 17.
Curtis Samuel was 2 for 19.
I'll go find that. I'm going to go find that tweet and get that person their credit. AJ, I know you wanted to mention something about Keon's draft archetype.
Yeah, can you bring that comment back up? I think it was from.
Yeah, I think it was right here.
So this is the problem, and I'm relating this because I want to flip the conversation a little bit. We're talking about receiver, we always do. I kind of want to talk about the bad parts about right now, and why I think I'm concerned about the run defense is this right here. Knowing these archetypes of Keon, knowing Allen is not the greatest in ball placement, why on earth did they draft Keon? And I want to make this about the defense and how they've constructed their defensive philosophy and stopping the run. Every single year we hear Sean McDermott say that, the Bills need to defend the run better. They need to get better with it. They need to figure out ways. They have to have better gap integrity. They have to establish the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? They say these things constantly. And I think the biggest frustration for me is they keep going after these same prototypes, expecting it to change when you already have two undersized linebackers. So I think that, like, if we want to flip it to the defensive side of the ball, and I'll let you guys discuss this because I don't think we've ever really talked about this, but you drafted TJ Sanders, an undersized penetrator defensive tackle. You drafted Deion Walker, and although he's a bigger body, he's more of a penetrating defensive tackle pass rusher. You drafted Ed Oliver in 2019, who was very poor against the run, although he's a very good pass rusher. You drafted Boogie Basham, who's undersized. I think that they've shown an inability, or almost they feel they're too confident sometimes in what they're trying to do, or they think they just haven't found maybe a penetrator that's undersized that can stop the run and do both. But I think in relation to, like, why would you draft a Keon Coleman? I think it's because they believed they had to build this basketball lineup. Shakir was the shifty point guard. You had, like, you know what I'm saying? You had a kind of like a collective build around. You wanted a collective build around Allen because you weren't going to get that wide receiver one. So you wanted that bigger bodied contested catch guy, where with the same thing with the defensive line, they keep harping that they want to figure out the run game and fix it, but they keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I think that's where I just want to take this conversation and hear your guys' thoughts about it, because I do think in January it's going to be, if they fall short, the reason and the ultimate decider as to why. Because I think I told Carson this earlier, and I told Bundt yesterday, and Bundt might disagree. I think Carson was kind of on the same page with me, but I do feel like Josh Allen has to go Cleveland LeBron James mode if they want to do this in January. And I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm not saying he doesn't have the potential to do that. But also LeBron James is probably, in my mind, the greatest of all time. We can argue that at another podcast, maybe on Jake on your Thursday show. But I think that what I'm trying to say is this: the Bills are a team that relies heavily on Josh Allen, and he needs to be great. And I'm not saying that he always needs to be great, because they have been able to run the ball effectively and Josh Allen not be great and win. But I think for them to hit that peak and their ceiling, right? Their ceiling, the best Bills football is when Josh Allen's at his best and they're unleashing him. And I think that's where I have concern that if that doesn't happen, will the run defense and the philosophy screw them like it has in years past?
It's a tough question to answer, AJ, because, and someone makes Marino's Legacy here makes a great point. Like, do they want to stop the run unless it's in high leverage moments? Is part of the McDermott defense the bend? We've talked about it. We've heard this term for years and years, the bend but don't break philosophy of the defense, right? Like letting up yards and allowing yards to happen, but being great situationally. But and having that personnel out there, it's been baffling.
Run, Jake.
It's been baffling. Yeah, no, I know that they want to stop the run effectively, but if they're willing to give up more in the run game to attribute to a better passing defense, is that trade-off that they're willing to make?
The balance.
They can, but it's so
you need to be a top 8. Worst case scenario, you got to be a top 18 to 20 run defense,
right,
for the nickel defense to be your primary base and have efficiency. They're like a bottom 2 run defense right now. Like, people have talked about their run defense in the past not being great. And like, oh, we want teams to run it on us. Yeah, we want teams to run. Yeah, that's what we want to do. That's fine when you're like playing from ahead every game and teams are killing the clock by running the ball. It's not great when teams are running for it for 7 yards every time it's first down, and you are letting teams literally exchange the lead with you 9 times in a game. Like, this is definitely a problem. They have no answer, and they're afraid of doing what they need to do. Like, they would have to go to base more, but if they go base, that might lead them to have issues in other areas. So,
yeah, is it a player problem? Is it a philosophical problem? Is it a scheme problem? Like,
well, don't we hear all the time that even though, of course, the coach would never come out and admit it, that they're designed to beat the Chiefs? More passing defense. They're a top passing defense and a bottom run defense. Is that what they want to be? Like, obviously, they don't want to be a bad run defense, but they would rather be a good pass defense than the run defense.
Yeah. Pick your poison. I don't know. It's a good. I just wanted to bring it up. See if you guys thought like the philosophy or what
They
was.
need Shaq
What's
Thompson.
the issue?
They need Shaq Thompson.
Or Dorian Williams to play more, maybe. I think Dorian Williams is
Thompson
great.
and Dorian Williams, like, I would be all in favor of having them in the game more. They need linebackers that actually can play linebacker.
Oof.
Do you think ultimately it was a mistake to? And this, I'm just asking this off the top of my head. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, should they have paid up for Tremaine Edmonds? As a guy who's held up. I'm not saying that he didn't get to the top tier play that he wanted to, but he's held up better injury-wise.
Tremaine Edmonds PFF grade.
and then I could give you an answer.
Well, we've seen maybe one or two splash plays since he's been in Chicago. I think one of them got negated by a penalty or something like that.
So I'm not saying like take that with a grain of salt. It's PFF, but it is saying it's.
Tremaine is better than any linebacker on the Bills right now.
And I will say, Bears fans have the same complaints that Bills.
Yeah,
fans have had about
the Bears defense sucks. So
You know what the problem? Know what the problem was? The Bills for years thought like it's the hubris that you were talking about, Jake. They were like, our scheme is so good, we'll just slot this guy here, and then we'll be fine. But you know what? The whole NFL has adjusted. So like when teams were throwing the ball a million times a game, the Bills defense was like, fine, cool. Like, but teams have gotten more physical with their lines and more physical with their running games. So now the Bills, their defensive line and linebackers,
behind.
They used to be able to like it'd be a struggle, but they could put up with it because teams are throwing it enough to where it warranted having quicker, smaller linebackers because you're going to be in pass defensive situations more often than run defense situations. We just played Baker Mayfield, who slings it around as much as anybody in the NFL, and the Bucs weren't even trying to pass the ball. Like, that's a sign that even the pass-heavy teams are
when you can unleash Sean Tucker. I mean, why?
Like, think about what Miami did to us with Tua. The whole point of Tua in the recent years, why they don't win enough, is because they never run the ball. It's just pass, pass, pass. The Bucs, pass, pass, pass. Teams that love to pass it are looking at the Bills and are like, they can't stop our run game if we wanted to. They can have their third-string running back in, and they're going to run all over us. Like, the Bills don't have linebackers. They have two safeties that are old, that one safety that's hurt and another safety that's old. And those are Milano and Bernard. And they don't do anything. Like, and I'm joking when I say safety. But for all the shit that Jordan Poyer gets, like, oh, he's a step slow, he can't keep up anymore. Why are we not talking about Matt Milano? Milano's horrible. Milano is maybe one of the worst linebackers in the entire NFL. And Terrell Bernard is playing hurt. So he can't do anything right now. Maybe Bernard, when healthy, is fine. But Bernard can't shed blocks. He has no lateral movement. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's pretty telling, like, what's going on. They have no linebackers.
The passing game.
And what happened when Shaq Thompson was playing? The Bills started actually defending things all right. Like, come on. It's not that hard here. And you know what? This is the funny thing. The Bills this year.
Get Mike Bundt at linebacker. Get him in there.
No, but it's just funny to me, man, because it's like the Bills might be like built to beat the Chiefs, but they're also built to lose to the Colts by 20. Like, Jonathan Taylor would set an NFL rushing record against the Bills. He might run for 400 yards against the Bills. Like,
that's why it's important that the Bills have the opportunity or ability to score 44 points in a game with 2 turnovers so they can get ahead of the Colts, and then you got Daniel Jones throwing the ball a lot.
But that's really the problem? What's the tendency when you're getting killed on the ground? Bring more people into the box. Well, then you're just one hole away from a guy taking it the distance. Like, so, like, I honestly, like, I honestly don't know what the Bills are going to do. They've been running more base this year than any recent time with McDermott. But if you look at the rest of the NFL, like, we all act like every team in the NFL is running nickel. Like, the Bills still run nickel higher than like 85 to 90% of the NFL.
Yep.
Maybe they have to do more 3 linebacker. Maybe you got to get Dorian Williams on the field more. Maybe you got to get Shaq Thompson on the field more, and you got to take one of your 2 old Milano or Bernard off the field, because you know what? They're not getting the job done.
Or Taryn, as much as anything.
Yeah, Taryn's been bad this year too. Like Taryn's been bad. Like you know how you know Taryn's been bad? How many times have you been like, wow, that was a great play by Taron Johnson? You're not saying that at all this year. And then how many times did you say it about Cam Lewis in recent weeks?
Yeah.
Cam Lewis is making Taron Johnson look replaceable. And then you look at splash plays with Matt Milano. How many times have you said, Matt Milano, what a play? How many times have you been Terrell Bernard, what a play? Like Deion Walker, it makes splash plays, and then he also gets himself in trouble with the run. But at least he makes a splash play to make up for it. Like, I just don't know anymore. Like, I think they got to change it.
It's all personnel. It's all personnel. To me, we had the same discussion last week. What's the Bills' offense limited to? Well, it's limited because the guys that they have out there maybe aren't the quality that they expected before the season. That's just the reality of it. I think it limits what the team can do, and I think defensively it's the same exact story. Linebackers are still a big question mark. Defensive line is a bunch of injured dudes thrown together. I mean, we had Daquan Jones a week ago playing as our edge rusher. Like, it's the guys are banged up. The guys that they do have healthy, they planned on probably having as a rotational piece. And then the one thing that was a question mark coming into the year was safety play, and right now that's the least of our issues. So I just think I said this to Ajay before. And this could bite me, but I'd be happy if it did. I don't think the offseason was as good as it needed to be when it came to free agency, draft, trades or lack thereof, depending on your opinion. I don't think it was good as it needed to be, and I think that's kind of we're seeing that to a certain extent on both sides of the football.
Yeah,
that's great point. Let's go into this week, Carson. I'm going to start with you because they're playing. How you expect them to attack? How you expect them to defend? It's a middle of the road offense led by Davis Mills this week. Not C.J. Stroud, still likely going to be out in concussion protocol. They're not a great third down offense, but defensively, number one in total yards, third in passing yards, third in rushing yards, first in points. Great defense. So what do you expect the Bills, how they're going to attack and defend this team? And then start with your predictions, and we'll go around the horn here.
What a horrible game we played against them last year. I guess the start, Josh touched on it today in the post game, 9-31 last year. I mean, plain and simple, they were boxed. It was locked up whole game long. Josh played a brutal game. Houston had some pressure up front as well. I guess the good news is it can't get worse, you hope. So offensively, the one thing that sticks out to me about that Houston defense is they're 28th in the red zone. Which is kind of interesting. So if you get to the red zone, that's where they do struggle. So when it comes to the offense, I just think you got to capitalize on those situations. Those are 4-point plays that separate a field goal and a touchdown, assuming you do make the extra point. But that I would like to see them continue. AJ, you touched on it. Just because you do it once doesn't mean you can do it again. I'd like to see them try to go a little bit against the grain of their tendency. I know I said I like seeing them run the football on first down and second down. And I think that's worked for them for a majority of the season. But at the same time, a defense like this, that's top upper half of the league in most categories, top 5 even. This is something you have to be a balanced offense. And play action, you have to run play action, I think, this week if you have any chance. When you have those linebackers bite on the run, if you're able to run the football on first down a little bit, I think that's a huge key. And then if you're unable to run the football, they're not going to bite on the play action, and you have to get back to your drop back game, which is not one of our strengths, to say the least. And then defensively, they have the 23rd ranked run game in the league. Our rushing attack on the defense, we've talked about it, 31st in the league. I think it's a little bit of an interesting game. It's kind of a weakness for strength for both teams. So you look at Houston's offense, they're not the greatest passing attack, literally dead middle, 16th. And when they get to the red zone, they're horrible as well. So red zone for them and just offense and defense is weird. They're hitting at 43%. And on third down, too, they're 26th in the league. So defense has got to get off the field. Bend but don't break. They talk about it all the time. But right now, I think this is an interesting game. And I would put the Bills on upset watch right now. I think Davis Mills, it's the backup, right? But he's a guy who's come in and he's provided some life for the squad. And certainly you can't sleep on him. If you sleep on him, you might be behind early, and you never know how they can go. But with that said, I do think the Bills defense is going to rebound this week. Short week ahead. Hopefully some guys are healthy that are going to be likely listed as questionable. Give me the Bills in this one, 30-17.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty confident pick there, Mr. Mr. Hayek. How do you say it? Hayek?
Yeah.
Hayek. I think, Carson said a lot of it. This Texans defense has had, a really good season. They're a team that, they're first in EPA. They're really good at taking the ball over. Their success rates top in the league. Like like Carson said, they do allow like nearly a 70% touchdown rate when they get in the red zone. When teams get in the red zone, but the teams have only gotten into the red zone on them 23 times all year. So that that's not that many times. If you do that over 10 game, that's like 2 times a game teams are getting into the red zone. So I think the Bills need to, like Carson said, get into the red zone. But I think they, like Carson said too, I think they need to continue, maybe not as much, but keep doing what they were doing with the running back usage in the passing game. And I think they protected Allen better and just being better in the scramble drill and being taking a little bit more risks. And I think that can help them. I think against Atlanta, they played like a defense that was really, blitzing on bringing them, but they were playing too safe. I know they were without Kincaid and Palmer, but I think they played a little bit too passive. I want them to attack this Houston defense and have confidence and let Josh Allen continue to play the type of football he played last week. And I don't expect him to do what he did, on a week by week basis like he did last week. But the point being, I want them to attack this Houston defense and not be afraid. And I want to see them go ahead. Defensively, I think Davis Mills, just because I do like Stroud more, and I think it's unacceptable. I tweeted it. It's unacceptable if they lose to a Davis Mills. You can't lose to a backup quarterback, especially coming off a nice win at home, and you're trying to build some momentum and consistency. Nico Collins has looked really good with Davis Mills, and I think this is going to be the toughest test for the Bills secondary since Drake London back a few weeks ago. Jalen Waddle has been in his own head. He had a couple bad drops in Germany against the Commanders. Actually, he almost cost them the game with some of his costly drops in that one. So Waddle hasn't really been playing well since Hill's departure with the injury. So I think Nico Collins is a big test. He had 9 for 92 and a touchdown against Tennessee, 7 for 136 against Jacksonville. So he's really had back-to-back good weeks with Davis Mills. And I think he's a talented player. He can win at every level. I think their run game, I think that's what's going to help the Bills. I don't think their rushing game really brings that much juice. Honestly, I don't even know the name of their starting running back.
Woody Marks.
Is it Woody Marks going right now? Yeah.
No, I know it's number 27. I just
him and Chubb.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb. Yeah.
Yeah, they struggle there. And I think that's going to help the Bills. So I don't know what Bills team's going to show up, but I'm hoping that now that it's November 18th and it's going to be November 20th, that they're starting to figure out the combination of receivers they like, and they start figuring out how to consistently move the football. And the offense and defense can try to, complement each other. I think they go on the road, and I think they win 24-23 Bills.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chubb and Marks. I don't see anything particularly overly impressive about the running game. Neither running back has gotten more than 70 yards in a game this year. But of course, if this Bills rush defense can make a third-string running back look like an all Hall of Famer at times. So if the Houston Texans are going to win, their running game has to take advantage of the weaknesses in the Bills defense, their linebackers and such. It'll be interesting to see this newly opened up offense going up against the top ranked Houston defense, both in running and in passing. Obviously, who's going to be healthy in the receiver room is going to affect that. And if Keon is in the lineup again, how he's going to be utilized, how often he's going to be utilized will be interesting to see. If they're going to win, it's probably going to be a low-scoring affair. I'll say Bills 21-17.
Okay, a lot of close picks. I don't know what the over-under is this week. I know what the line is. I feel like Houston's a good team. Even with Davis Mills, they have the ability to beat the Bills. But I just don't think Davis Mills is that great of a quarterback. He's a backup, and this Texans team doesn't really get it done offensively. That's part of the reason why they're 5-5. They have a great defense, yet they lose half their games. So it's hard for me to have confidence in the Texans here, especially last year. We all remember how Josh Allen went 9 of 30, but we forget the Bills lost on a last-second field goal. Josh Allen played maybe the worst game of his career, and the Bills still probably should have had a shot to win the game. They handed it off to the Texans. So I don't know. It's hard for me to think that like the Texans are going to be explosive, even with the Bills' defensive problems. I'm going to go Bills 24-21.
24-21. Bundt, that would put you just over because I just checked and it's 43.5 it's sitting at right now. So it would just be a little bit over. I think, honestly, this isn't just based off of what we saw from the passing attack last week and the way this team has looked all season long. I've thought a lot going into this game. I was worried about it before this Tampa game. Like, man, beat up short week against this defense. Same thing goes for this defense against this Houston team, who they struggled with Tennessee in this game. They've looked, even with how good their defense has been, the offensive line is just horrible. I think they're going to put Davis Mills in some really bad situations. I think the Bills will be able to kind of make him look silly. They did it before. I know it was a completely different team a couple years ago, but the Bills destroyed Davis Mills a couple years ago. I think the Bills are going to come out. I think we've talked a lot about this team this year. At least I've talked a lot about this team this year, and specifically Josh Allen this year, of how streaky they are, how when their confidence is going, they're just a different crew, and they just felt like a whole different team Sunday. I think the Bills are going to rout the Houston Texans 33-14 on Thursday night. I think that this Houston team is outclassed. I think if there's a hierarchy in the AFC, there's a tier. The Texans are not in that playoff caliber tier at this point, in my opinion. I think the Bills stamp their approval, knowing that it's a huge opportunity, get a win, 10 days rest, and see where the AFC East playoff picture lies after the New England and Cincinnati battle on Sunday. But I think this team is locked in, knows what's in front of them. They're not going to slip up in this one. I think they win big. And that would also put it just slightly over with the 33-14. I think
Shout out to sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, the only one who went under was Parthy, just slightly under with his 21-17. Go ahead, AJ.
Shout out to Khalil Shakir and his wife. They had their daughter, Sunny Haven Shakir. You're not going to be able to catch that baby if it gets on the loose, just like Khalil. They're going to have to really reel Sunny in. She's going to be a great yards after the catch machine, whether she plays flag football or whatever she plays, she's going to be a beast. So I just shout out to the Shakir family and Khalil. A lot of jokes that he's going to have that dad strength now out there.
Congrats to them. And also, if you believe in anything true and pure in sports gambling, you bet a Khalil Shakir touchdown on Thursday. That is going to happen. The baby,
and he'll be rocking that football in the end zone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Rocking the baby as it goes. So yeah, shout out to them. We love that. Thank you, AJ, and thank you everybody who tuned in to tonight's podcast, Pay the Bills podcast, presented by Picasso's Pizza. Get your Picasso's Pizza anywhere nationwide and in Western New York at picassospizza.net. For Mike and Mike, someone said in here earlier, actually, it was funny. They said, I agree with Mike. And I'm just like, I don't think that could be anything.
Michael say it, Sam. But you don't know what Mike I'm talking about. You don't know which Mike I'm talking about either.
Mike, AJ, Carson, and myself, Jake Micah. Thank you all for joining. We'll be back Thursday night for the post game. Until then, go Bills.